we have a really, really fun set list. It's balanced between two worlds because the thing is that Cuban music is very, very integral to the dance. And this is actually my biggest joy of playing music that is rooted in Africa is that the music is driven into everything that is surrounded to the music. You're just asking hard questions now.
Welcome to NMACC Culture Conversations. International Jazz Day celebrations kick in. Venue the Studio Theatre, 27th of April, 8 p.m. It's a 2 hour, 40-minute gig. And part of that gig, very important part of that gig, is the band Paddy Los Gatos. The pulse of Latin jazz and salsa in India is founded and led by Pradyumna Manot, Paddy. And Paddy is here with me. We're going to chat a bit. What's up, Paddy? How are you, man?
I'm good. How are you doing, Hrishi?
Good. The significance of International Jazz Day for you. You want to take me through that, please?
I always see International Jazz Day like a birthday celebration. Like your mom or your dad or your whoever is very important to you every single day. But then the birthday is when you do something special because every other day you can be busy. And you just remind yourself that this is an important part of my life.
That's very beautifully put. Okay, let's talk about the band, its composition, basically a personnel and instrument check for the gig at the Studio Theatre NMACC on the 27th.
We're a 7-member ensemble. I'm playing the piano. I have Aditya on the bass. He and I have been playing for a while in different kinds of Latin jazz setups. Then Ahona, who's also my wife, she's singing. She's been working really hard at Brazilian and Cuban music for a few years and especially worked really hard on the pronunciation, the accent, the rhythmic style of singing, and the phrasing. So she's been really at it. Then on the congas and the drums, I have two of my students who I made them get into this music last year. Shurajit is on the congas, Pradyumna is on the drums, and they've made a phenomenal growth curve when it comes to Cuban music and Cuban jazz. And even more surprising was when I was looking for, so in Cuban music, you always want to have two singers accompanying your main singer, which is a chorus section.
Yeah.
And I was trying to find two women just because they can match the scale with Ahana, because when a guy and a woman sing, there's like a different scale, so we have like difficulty.
Mm-hmm.
And this friend of mine, she was like, I have learned singing for a while, but that's Indian classical, and I would like to try this if you're okay with it. And I said, yeah, let's give it a shot. And she joined, and then I was really happy with what she was doing, and she learned the guiro and she worked hard at it. And then I said, and I knew she had a sister because I was trying to find someone, because finding a musician for a band is not as simple as just finding someone talented. You need to be able to get along with that person. They need to agree to your terms and conditions. There's so many factors. So I was like, your sister, does she sing? She was like, yeah, sometimes. I was like, bring her. And that worked out too. So we have the sisters. They're actually fashion designers. And in 5 months, they have really given so much time to this music and done an incredible job so far.
So full powerhouse lineup at the Studio Theatre NMACC on the 27th. That's wonderful. I want to talk a little bit about yourself. I mean, I believe you started learning and playing Western classical in the early phase of your life. Just curious to know, what instrument do you pick up, Paddy? And who are your mentors? And did you play with orchestras or were you a soloist?
Well, actually, I started playing keyboards when I started learning when I was 6, and I was learning from this gentleman called Antomenes, and he was a jazz vibraphonist. Then when I was around 10, he said that he suggested I go and learn some classical piano just to get some reading and technique down into my fingers and get some formal education. So at that time, I did that, and I learned for about 8 years. And I had a couple of teachers along the way. And then around 18 when I had finished, so there was a year when I did some piano concertos in an orchestra and some solo piano performances like Chopin and Mozart. is when I got severely bored of what I was doing because I didn't want to play someone else's music. And I also didn't want to focus my energy uh, onto colonial hangover music, if I'm being very blunt. Um, it's beautiful music. I respect it a lot. I still listen to it. I would study and analyze it to learn from it. But as a human being, I didn't want to get into that place where I'm playing what someone else has played, and also what thousands of pianists around the world play better than me. Everybody's playing Mozart, and there's always someone who plays that particular performance better. So I didn't want to be that person. I don't want to be better than anyone. I don't want to be greater than anyone. I just want to have a very satisfying musical life. And I do music primarily because it makes me happy. I don't want to get into spaces where I'm trying to bring someone down and things like that. So given all of this that I was thinking at the time, I decided to get into jazz because being a pianist, I wanted to continue in the piano tradition. And jazz being 90% improvised music made a lot of sense to me because when you're improvising, you're playing your own soul. You're playing your own thoughts, your own mind, your own feelings, and your own story. And that's the reason I got into jazz. At that time, I was looking for somebody to teach me jazz, and eventually somebody connected me to a gentleman who is no more, Madhachari, and he was my mentor for a long time. He taught me many things, not just, and most of the things were off the piano. It was about the music, but it was not on the piano. But he shaped a lot of my thinking and understanding of what this music is. And then I met somebody in Calcutta called Monojit Datta, who we used to call Kochuda, who was somebody who single-handedly started Latin music in the country. And he learned from the radio and from a couple of books, and he had his own ensemble. And he heard me play in a jam session, and he said, let's do a Latin jazz quartet, to which I said, you're completely mad because you're asking me to play a music I've never heard before, and you're making me the lead because there was no singers or anything. He's like, don't worry about it. We will manage it. And he was a person who could take anybody really stupid and make them into a diamond, you know. I mean, not that I became a diamond, that's for him to decide. He's also sadly no more. But he had that quality and that ability. So because of him, I got into Cuban music and I fell in love with it. And then during the pandemic, I took the opportunity to get into some online lessons, and I contacted one of the best Cuban pianists in the world. His name is Rodolfo Peruchin. His grandfather is one of the greatest pianists in the world, especially when it comes to Cuban music. There was no one like him. So his grandson is my current mentor when it comes to Cuban music. And that's primarily what I play is Cuban jazz, Afro-Cuban jazz.
You actually segued beautifully into my next four questions, which is about what fascinated you about jazz mentors that you'd like to give credit to and how you were drawn to salsa and Latin music. Okay, let's come to your set list. What's it looking like when you get to NMACC and get to the studio theater? What can fans expect coming in for the gig?
We have a really, really fun set list. It's balanced between two worlds because the thing is that Cuban music is very, very integral to the dance. And this is actually my biggest joy of playing music that is rooted in Africa, is that the music is driven into everything that is surrounded to the music. For example, an orchestra playing a piano concerto, I don't find the connect with the audience the way I find a connect between Indian classical and an audience, or folk music and an audience, or Cuban music and an audience, or African rhythmic music with an audience. So the music is very, very deeply about the dance, about the earth, about the folkloric religions and traditions and all of these things. So this is a very, very big part of the music. And I know that there's going to be some salsa dancers coming in. So I have kept those elements very strong. Anyway, you have to. Cuban music is very strong with these elements. And I have kept a fair amount of jazz elements. So it's a very interesting balance of complexities as well as simple sections where you can just let go and anyone can move to it. And also the choice of songs is between a jazz standard to a Cuban standard to a salsa standard to something slow to something very racy, moving very fast to a very beautiful mid-tempo lilt, from sad songs to very joyous songs. And if there's time, we have a really fun encore in place, which everybody can sing because everybody knows that song.
Sweet. I'm not even going to ask you what that song is. Paddy Los Gatos. I bet you get asked this a lot. The name itself, how do you decide on it? How do you fix it?
So a few years ago, I went to Panama to play in the jazz festival there. And when I came back, I was in some sort of depression because I didn't want to leave Panama. I felt very much at home in that culture and surrounded by the musicians and everything. I was there for a week, and I can honestly say I lost my heart in Panama. And when I came back, I was desperate to create that feeling for me here. So I started working on making a band, Latin jazz band here. My bass player was from El Salvador, Sergio, and my singer, she was from Colombia, Shari. The drummer was from Venezuela, Carlos, and the percussionist was from Panama, Fidel. And at that time, we called the band Los Gatos Ay Mama, which is like, the message is very clear to Latinos that this is about the party. You get it right down on the dance floor. Um, and then the band had to disband because three of the musicians had to go back to the countries. Venezuela went into a kind of civil war, if you remember, a few years ago, and things like that. So a bunch of things happened, and then we disbanded. It was just unfortunate. We're still friends, and we would love to play with each other. But I like that name a lot because Los Gatos means the cats, and I wanted to keep that. And I was looking at my band, and we were talking a lot about what name to keep. And I was like, I'm just going to keep this name, and I'm just going to be a little arrogant and put my name behind it, in front of it, to make it change and be like Paddy and the Cats. So it's Paddy y Los Gatos.
Well,
And actually, sorry, the Cats. Cats is a very cool. It's a very colloquial way that jazz musicians call each other. Them cats playing a good gig.
yeah.
So
But I'm just curious, with an entire band of South Americans, do you speak Spanish?
a poquito.
All right. Talk about the studio theater and the NMACC and the facilities and the experience of getting to perform there. If you've already been there, if you're not, then the excitement of getting there and doing your thing, man.
Yeah, when NMACC opened up, I think within 3 months I went and did a solo piano performance. There was me and Nipun, and it was a very beautiful time. And I had it was like a holiday, to be honest, more than anything, because I stayed at the Trident of the Oberoi just opposite, and the weather was just spectacular. It was raining, and that part of Bombay didn't feel like the congested Bombay that I avoid. Not avoid, I mean, but like it's a bit overwhelming when somebody goes to Bombay. And I just went over. It was like walking over to the NMACC, and I just performed, and I had a good time, and then I heard Nipun play, and it was great. And that was at the Cube, the small one. And then I went back a couple of months later with my quartet. At that time, we had a samba, salsa, Cuban, like a mix kind of quartet, and then we performed at the studio, and that was another super fun time. So, and then there's been quite a gap, which is cool, and I'm really looking forward to coming back to NMACC and playing again. All my friends are excited. They're all going to be dropping in to get into the party vibes of Latin jazz.
So is that the reason you've not shifted base to Bombay, and why home has always been Kolkata? Like
I guess
Usha
so.
like Usha auntie. I mean, she'll never move. But there have been guys like Louis Banks and the others who have moved.
To each his own. I am my own kind of creature, and I want to be with my family here. If I had to move, I would have moved to Latin America or America to get into the music. Otherwise, I don't particularly have a reason to move anywhere. I'm also very comfortable with my mediocre materialism life, which is a clean bed and a good toilet and nice food, and then that's enough for me. I'm not chasing more than required. So given all of that, I like the relaxed pace of the Bombay Calcutta life, and I work very hard at my music, and I find this space to be very conducive to the kind of person I am. So I don't have a reason to move anywhere.
Lovely. I believe you have a music school. You want to tell us about it? What's really taught there?
I wanted it to be a music school, and that was the initial plan. But then when we got into the nitty gritties of it and the financials and things like that, we discovered that this requires a fair bit of investment and a fair bit of time and effort to make it happen. And it was me and Ahona. We both decided to think about this and do it together. But then we both decided that this will take away a lot of things that we don't want to lose. Like we don't want to lose being free traveling musicians, and we don't want to lose a normal peace of mind. I guess we're lazy that way, or we just don't want to work beyond a point, and we want to focus a lot more on the few things that we really want to be. So in the end, it's just a mentoring program where I have students who learn from me, but with a certain kind of system, which is we have classes every day.
Sweet. Okay, greatest jazz musicians to come out of India would be?
For me, definitely Madhav Chari is at the top of the list because not because I knew him or anything. He was just somebody who was an encyclopedia of this music. He was somebody who knew this music inside out, from playing it to listening to it. He knew every single album, every single musician who played on the album, every single song of that album, where it was recorded. Like his passion for jazz was so deep that he knew all this internally very strongly. Like he would hear literally like a second of any recording and tell you which album, which musician, when, what it was recorded. So,
Wow.
and given that kind of knowledge that he had and the way he played, his intensity about it, he was definitely, he was a phenomenal jazz pianist. And after that, there's a lot of incredible musicians in India who play jazz. And I wouldn't want to say two names because there's so many of them who are just as good,
Yeah, fair enough.
who deserve a mention. But I'm mentioning Madhav because he was really, really special. And yeah.
Your top three jazz musicians of all time, people you've loved, adored.
You're just asking hard questions now. It's very hard to say, like my favorite pianist of all time is Gonzalo Rubalcaba. Just because.
He's fantastic. I've actually spoken to him. I've done a half an hour interview with him.
Oh, wow.
He had a
That's
gig in
great.
Bombay and we did a Zoom. Yeah.
Yeah. And he is really, really, really good friends with my mentor, Peruchin. They're like what we say, chuddy buddies from Cuba. He's someone who can just do anything. And in any style of Latin jazz, from very folkloric Cuban styles to very hardcore modern jazz styles. And I'm just like, he has superlative technique. I've never seen a pianist that has this kind of technique, but at the same time, he can play a ballad with such simplicity and make you cry, So I am completely in awe of the range of playing that he has in terms of styles and techniques and whatnot. And I had a master class with him once, and he asked me to play something, and I played a night in Tunisia, and then he started demonstrating. And then he went and played, I don't know, like a million ways to play Night in Tunisia. And he wasn't even trying. He was just looking at me and his fingers on the piano, and he was just like, and I was like, this is not a master class. This is just telling me that, I am talking to a god, like that kind of thing. And another phenomenal pianist is Sullivan Fortner, who I love. Another phenomenal musician who I follow a lot is Alan Perez. But these are some of the musicians, and I love a lot of musicians. Like for me, they're all like, so I couldn't say three. Just three just came off my head right now. So don't, there's more.
Yeah. Listen, now the number three is coming up again. This is the last question. 3 jazz albums that I should listen to, like really essential jazz albums that you say I should get into my collection.
How about instead of jazz, I tell you about Cuban music?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, of course.
Because I'm sure that you speak to a lot of jazz musicians.
I do.
But then lesser Cuban.
Lesser Cuban. You're right.
Yeah. Essentials, I would tell you that Buena Vista Social Club. That is one of the most landmark albums of Cuban music. Then there is an Afro-Cuban All-Stars album, Toda Cuba Le Gusta.
Le Gusta. Okay.
Yeah. Recently, a really nice album I came across is incredible singer called Aimee Nubiola, and it's called A Journey Through Cuba.
Journey Through Cuba.
And I think you really enjoy these 3 albums.
Lovely. Thank you so much. International Jazz Day celebrations kick off at the NMACC, the Studio Theatre, 27th of April, 8 p.m. Tickets are live now at Book My Show as well as at the venue. We just spoke to Paddy, the founder of Paddy Los Gatos, and him and the band are really going to turn it up. So please go get your tickets and enjoy this. Hey, man, thanks a lot.
Thank you so much.
Thanks for your time. Appreciate it. Bye-bye. See you.
94.3 Radio 1.